Welcome back to FM Jeeping. My name is Mark. Today we're going to be covering what I've been doing on the XJ for the last 6 months. So before I get into the video, I just want to say that I know that I've been a little slacking on videos lately. I'll be completely transparent. My main focus was to get this done and get this wheel in as soon into the new season as possible. I definitely fell behind on this. I had originally, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, only intended on this project taking about a month's time once I finished the axles, you know, the assembly of the axles, the re-gearing of the axles. That was not the case. I mean, I started this just after Christmas of 2020, and I finished up Memorial Day weekend, or at least got it driving Memorial Day weekend. So this project definitely went off the rails. Short story, that I originally intended on doing this on the cheap, buying some cheap junkyard axles, keeping it geared the way they came, throwing it in the rig with some used tires that I found on Facebook, and sending it. However, that really wasn't the case. So there's some things that I'll cover during the walk around that I ran into that kind of steered me in the direction I went. That kind of leads me to why I went with 1 ton in the first place. The quick and dirty is that I went wheeling one time up in Ma Bell at the end of last season. Actually, yeah, probably at the end of last season. And I ended up breaking a front axle shaft on my Dana 30. Oh. Now that is not too uncommon, especially for those who wheel. But when you get into the bigger tires, you know, things start breaking. That was kind of the first indication. I don't like braking. I try to do stuff so I'm kind of over-engineering, or at least that's the attempt. On that same trip, I ran into some guys who actually had 1 ton XJs, leaf sprung, front 3-link, caged, and seeing what they could do, the abuse that they could put their rigs through, kind of really turned me on to wanting to go that route. For those who have followed me all along or go back into my older stuff video-wise, notice that I'm trying to progress and kind of elevate each step of either filmmaking, my fabrication skills, the Jeep and things like that. It's all progression. So naturally, I think that this would be the next big step. I've kind of been leaning more toward doing more rock crawling than back trail stuff that I originally started out with. The original intent of this Jeep was to basically just be a weekend wheeler, you know, use it to go camping or take the family out fishing and stuff in the woods, and not have to worry about scratching my vehicle or have something that can get me to, you know, better places. Now it's on 40s and tons. So it's funny how things change, how your outlook changes, or what you intend to do kind of varies. And you'll see a lot of that during this walk around. And with that all said and done, let's get that out of the way, get right into the walk around. We'll start right here on the front axle. This is a 2006 Dana 60 out of an F350 Super Duty. It is geared 538s with Yukon gears, Yukon spool, rough stuff, front diff cover. I normally have hydro assist. However, during my shakedown run, I ended up spinning the collar on the tie rod because the tie rod rolled. I forgot to put a lock nut on the heim for the ram, and essentially 90-degreed my ram up into my drag link. That's what all this is up here is, bending my ram. So unfortunately right now I'm kind of running without a ram until the new one shows up in the mail. So fun is. So I'm running a Barnes weld-on high steer arm into Barnes HD steering. This is the cheaper of the two kits that they offer for the Dana 60. If you're going to go with these high steer arms, go with the more expensive one. I think it's $10 more. It gives you all the spacers you need. I found out down the line that I needed to buy these because I went with the cheaper kit. So don't make the same mistake. On the actual axle, I have the Artec swap truss. I did modify this because I wanted to run the track bar as long as I could possibly run before I had to weld it onto the C. This is a Artec track bar mount. I originally was going to use the rough stuff one that was offset. However, I placed it where the Artec one was supposed to be. I didn't like the angle. It came out too far. I was hitting my steering. Plus I wanted the full length track bar, the one where I could run as long as I could. So I took the Artec one, cut the front perches off the springs here, moved the springs back because I did a 2-inch stretch, and relocated the track bar 6 inches over, and that's where I am right now. This is the Artec track bar mount. The belief that I've always been under is that you want the angles the same, the length as close as possible for better steering geometry. So up here, because the unibody has like curvature, I actually ended up extending this track bar mount to meet flush, so it's a little offset. If you check out my video, I actually showcase some of that. This is held up pretty good. I doubled up on this, and this is just about 1/2 inch thick on 1/4 inch angle, welded in multiple points all the way around the unibody. These are cheapy shocks from Rusty's. They seem to be the only place that actually has shocks that have some high travel in stock right now, so I went with them. My traditional hockey puck bump stops. Found some green ones this time. That's always fun. And if you can see down there, I got some stainless steel braided line for the brakes. Another question I get asked a lot is what tires I went with. Now, once again, I had originally wanted to run with the cheapest tire I could possibly find. I think I either was given or I found really super cheap Humvee takeoffs, which were about 37, 38 inches at 16.5 inch rims. I got them home. They weren't the right bolt pattern, which I kind of knew, but I was going to try getting like a conversion or something like that. But reading further, I found that 16.5 inch rims tend to have issues holding beads because of the 1/2 inch variance or something. I don't know. So I scrapped that. Kyle, Bearded Jeeper, turned me on to Battleborn beadlocks, which is what I got here. These are steel beadlocks. These are probably some of the cheapest ones you'll find on the market right now. And I got those wrapped with a Turo Trail Blade Boss. I picked these up used on Facebook Marketplace, pretty cheap. Couldn't pass up the deal. They only had about 500 miles on them. So, you know, hey, for what I paid for them, which I'm not going to say online, they were a hell of a deal, so I couldn't pass it up. Also built into the front axle, and the reason why I run a spool, is the ability to run locking hubs. I don't like a lot of stuff that can fail. I've seen too many air lockers fail on the trail. Spools are pretty much as simple as you go because it's locked all the time, and this is basically what helps me lock and unlock it. It's also a cheaper option. These are about, I think, 150 bucks each. I'd rather be breaking these than shafts and a locker. So I try to move my cheap weak link to the outside of the rig and cheap as possible. So that's that. As we get further on down the rig, I have an Exofab hybrid cage. It's not complete yet. I want to add on to it and do some more customization. I'm waiting on a bender to come in, but basically it comes down here, and if I can show you, oops, terminates right behind the fender to my rock slider. It's tied in to the front firewall, as well as the rock slider comes up here and then is tied into the halo. It follows this, sorry for the mess, comes through the roof, down through, and then ties into the floor, and then I got supports underneath there tying into the slider as well. I did a video not too long after the new year about my fender wells. These were cut open and opened up, extended. I lost the ability to fill my gas here, so I have to fill it on the inside. We'll cover that in a second. Basically, I opened up this area to clear the 40. I can flex this tire pretty much right in here. I'm pretty happy with the overall performance of these. It's a little bit thicker than factory. The only thing I'm going to do different is I'm actually going to end up putting caps on the upper part of the shock tower, if you can see up here. I intended on doing that before, I just haven't gotten around to it. I wanted to get it driving so I can break the gears in. So I might be doing those when I have time in the near future. But overall, I'm really happy with the tubs. When I flexed this thing out on the RTI ramp not too long ago, I was able to pretty much top out the shock, and I had a little bit of room left in the fender, so I don't have to worry about hitting anything in the rear axle or the rear end. So another question I get asked a lot is what coilovers I'm running in the rear. Right now, I'm running Pro Fender 14-inch coil overs with 200 over 150 over 200 springs. Seems to ride pretty good. I originally had wanted to ride a little lower, however, once I put the shocks on, the coilovers on, and I sat at ride height, I was actually pretty happy with it. I wanted a little lower center of gravity, but overall I really like the look of it. It's proportional. It fits the tires and the lift and everything perfect, at least in my mind. So I'm going to run with it. That's why, if you remember in the front, I have the ACOS raised a little bit to kind of match the lift that I got with the coilovers. So one thing I did gloss over in the front was which suspension I had. I had originally run the Iron Rock Off-Road Rock Link 3-link up front. And for the Dana 30, that is a great kit for the money. It flexes really well, tucks up really well. However, it did not match up to the bracketry on the Dana 60 very well. The upper control arm was contacting the drive shaft, and the lower control arms, although they would go into the control arm brackets on the axle, were really flexed out, and I did not like how it was binding up. So at the same time I was working through that problem, a new company came out called Alpine Peak Precision that offered a full belly front and rear 4-link, or if you want to run 3-link in the front, you could run 3-link in the front. So I opted to go with that kit. He was having a pre-order, and I loved the look of the kit, and we'll check the belly pan out here in a second. But he said that it flexed really well. It would fit my application perfect. The arms came unmade, so I can custom make them at any length I wanted, which is why I stretched the rig forward and rear so I can get the most out of the wheelbase. But here is the rear 4-link. I got 2-inch square tubing on the rear, on the lower, 1.5-inch round tube on the top for the uppers. Made it to a R-Tech full width truss for a Sterling 10.5. The Alpine Peak Precision has its own truss that is like a horseshoe or a wishbone style. I didn't want to run that. I wanted to run the full width. So my setup is a little bit more custom than what Alpine Peak Precision usually does. But overall, I'm pretty happy. Like I said, I like the full width truss. I have Alpine Peak control arm, shock mounts. This came with the kit as well. Really nice, just burned right in. Worked really well with my my coilovers. Once again, drilled and slotted rotors from A1 Auto. Factory calipers from Ford. Clayton diff cover for the Sterling 10.5. And back here I'm running 538 Yukons as well with a Grizzly locker. So it's an auto locker. It's there when you always want it. So there's no selectability there. One thing I didn't cover is I Frenched in shock mounts, and I'll go up top and show you those here in a second. Excuse the mess, we just got back from wheeling not too long ago and I haven't cleaned out the rig. So the coilovers are reservoir shocks. I got those mounted right here on the trim, but it is bolted all the way through to the sheet metal. I actually gotta seat that a little bit better. Here is the Frenched in shock mounts. They're all the way into the frame. You can see this is where the unibody is. I cut in and welded in, and I also boxed them out so that way it keeps out all or most of the elements. I'm just going to put a cap on here and I should be good to go. Then I also am running a 15-gallon Moto-Built fuel cell. Because I pushed the axle back so far, I had to relocate my fuel tank. I didn't want to run a factory fuel tank, so I ended up going with the Moto-Built fuel cell. So this is it in a nutshell. The beauty part about these is that it takes the factory fuel pump and drops right in. You bolt it down and call it a day. Got some AN line, quick disconnect, things like that. The roll cage is in. I'm gonna tie this in more and kind of do some crossbars to tow to secure it up, and I might actually run a 3/4 D-pillar bar and run it back a little bit more for a little bit extra support. So one thing I may not have covered in the comp cut video as well as I would have liked is the fact that I wanted to retain my quarter panel armor. This is from DB Metalworks out of Arizona. Really good stuff, very stout. I wanted to retain this because I like the bar, I like the tail light protection, and this will give me something to kind of, if I wanted to, I could tie into. Not sure if I'm going to go that route yet, but I like it. It broke up the rear quarter a little bit more, so I just cut it to match the fender well, and it seems to work pretty well. Now we can get underneath the rig. For the rear, running an Adams drive shaft. This is custom length. Super easy guys to work with. I'm going to be calling them again relatively soon to get possibly a front drive shaft. But from now on, I think I'm going to be going with Adams. Here's a better look at the 4-link and how it's set up. The cross member back here is welded in, and then the skid plate bolts in between the upper and lower. Better look at the upper, or better look at the 3-link and the rear 4-link. And then the last little bit that I had to do to get this thing drivable is get an exhaust on it. I did drive down the street without an exhaust. Let me tell you, a straight piped 4-liter that dumps basically right past the transfer case was super loud and annoying. So I went out, got a exhaust builder kit, plumbed it the way I wanted, and dumped it out the back. You can see the muffler back here. That, you might notice, has a giant a giant dent in it. That is the MagnaFlow muffler that I installed on this probably about this time last year. The exhaust kit, I just salvaged it. I liked the sound. It was still usable, and I tried to kind of do it on the cheap. That whole exhaust piece, basically from here back, cost me all of maybe 35 bucks. So all in all, not that bad. And then one of the last things I still need to do, I want to go ahead and Herculine the front bumper. I trimmed this bumper down. The bumper used to kind of come around and curve and end right here. I ended up cutting about 6 inches off, so I had more turn radius. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was a little bit more long-winded than normal. However, I wanted to showcase everything I've done over the last 6 or so months to get this thing ready for the wheeling season and all the upgrades. If you want to see more behind-the-scenes stuff, definitely check out the Instagram, which is FM Jeeper, or my Facebook page, which is FM Jeeping. And that kind of goes behind the scenes, gives a more kind of up-to-date status on where I am and some pictures of things that I'm doing. If you like the video and you want to see more, please consider subscribing. Hit that little thumbs up button to show me that you like the video, and click that little bell icon to let you know when I upload a new video. So with that being said, we'll catch you on the next one.